I want you to imagine doing 100 deals. You know what? If you've never done a deal, I want you to imagine doing your first deal. Okay. And if you've done 1, 2, 5, 10 deals, I want you to imagine doing 100.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now I want you to imagine doing 1,000, which isn't even realistic. I've definitely not done 1,000. Like when I do the math, I'm like, somewhere in the hundreds of deals over the past decade. If you do a deal a month, you're at a couple hundred after a decade, essentially. So I'm like, okay. I want you to imagine doing 5,000 deals. Okay, 10,000. It's actually becoming so unrealistic that you're like, I can't even fathom it. Well, he's done 15,000.
Yeah.
More than 15,000.
Yeah.
That's absolutely insane. We're going to talk about how that's possible, who this gentleman is, and then we're going to go from there. Welcome to the Kingdom Podcast. My name's Todd Fleming. I'll be your host alongside Jordan Payne. Our mission is to end financial suffering. So whether you've been following us for a while or this is your first time visiting us, you've made a great decision. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read off the achievement list of Troy Fullwood, who is our guest today, which I'm really excited about. Troy is also our one of our lead mentors in our Ascension program. So I'm excited to go into more of that here very, very shortly. But first, I want to go over your achievement list because it's bananas. Okay. First of all, this is his book. It's called The Power of Paper. So if you want to learn how to do 15,000 plus transactions, buy the book, because if you've never done 1 deal, 5 deal, 10 deal, 1,000 deal, if you haven't done 1,000 deals, buy the book because it's going to help.
Yeah.
It's okay. So the achievement list is absolutely bananas. Okay. So you're the founder of Pinnacle Investments with over 15,000 closed note transactions. Mind-boggling. Best Mortgage Investor USA by Wealth and Finance International. Best of the Best Finance by Acquisition International, back-to-back years. Co-founding member of the Seller Finance Coalition based in Washington, D.C. Led legislative meetings with meetings with congressmen on Capitol Hill as supporter of Bill H.R. 1360. Co-founder of Note Genesis and industry software. Launched the Thriving Investor financial website with over 34,000 members. It's spoken at Harvard University Business School multiple times, spoke at NASDAQ in December 2017. And honestly, the list continues to go on here. So just to give you an idea of who we have the honor of speaking with today, that's insane. So 1, that's unbelievable. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But 2, give us a little bit of an idea. I know we run in similar circles. A lot of people within the Kingdom community are going to know who you are, obviously. But for anybody watching or listening, give us a little background on yourself, even though that was obviously a little bit. But give us a little background on yourself, how you got started, why you do what you do.
Yeah, so it's an honor. It's a pleasure to be here with you and Kingdom and everybody else out there listening. My background in real estate came from, so let me back up even further. So when I go back to the beginning, I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. So my grandparents, my mom, my dad, my aunts, my uncles, they all had companies, corporations and stuff like that. International and domestic shipping and freight and everything from accounting firms to, just a wide variety of different industries. And I was involved in all that by mowing yards. I started in high school mowing yards as a landscaper.
So start with landscaping.
Yeah, and out there. And what was ironic about it, it was actually mowing yards became my first introduction to real estate. And it kind of goes hand in hand. But what I mean by that is that when I started mowing yards, my parents had a good friend, still is a good friend, who was a realtor. And so I reached out to her and I said, "Hey, I'm mowing yards. Do you know anybody who needs the service?" And she says, "Well, let me talk to my property manager," which I had no idea what a property manager was at the time. I'm like, "Oh, okay, sounds cool. Let me know." And so sure enough, the next day, the property manager calls me, invites me to her office and says, "Okay, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I mow yards, I clean, I trim bushes, this and that." And so she goes, "Well," she sent me out to 2 properties to give her an estimate. What I didn't realize was when I got there, the properties, they needed some work. They were disastrous. They were like rehab properties, as we know in the business. Yeah. But they had nothing but garbage and trash in their front yards. And so I gave her an estimate to clean up the front yard, mow it, and do all that. Basically, how you say, what's the word I'm looking for? just basically a big clean out.
Yeah.
Is what it was. So, and I was doing clean outs before clean outs were cool, kind of a thing. This is back in 1985.
Your first leading indicator into becoming a recovering flipper and then moving on.
Exactly. If there's one regret that I have about it, I wish I would have bought more of those houses back then.
Hey, I believe that.
That is like the golden regret.
Those are all millions of dollars now.
Oh yeah. They're silly valuable nowadays. But and what I didn't realize was, so I'm doing this. I'm giving estimates. She's giving me all this work. I was doing 7 houses a week or so after school because I was still in high school doing this. I was making about $500 a house. And here's the kicker. All of them were for the RTC.
Okay.
Back in the day. So savings and loan crisis, crash, RTC gets all these properties, vacant homes, all that kind of stuff.
You might want to define RTC for everybody.
The Resolution Trust Corporation,
okay,
which is a subsidiary of the U.S. government that took in all the properties that during the savings and loan crisis, when people were defaulting and the savings and loan scandal.
I'm going to introduce one more thing about you. You're the king of acronyms.
Okay.
I have never met anyone who has more abbreviations and acronyms than this gentleman here. So I'm going to ask you to define them a lot because I can never keep up with any acronyms whatsoever.
Okay, well, I appreciate that because that brings light to the...
Like Airbnb. What's the B&B?
Yeah, bed and breakfast.
Oh, makes sense, yeah.
But so I started back then, and I was 17 and a half in high school doing this, making stupid, silly money.
Yeah.
$500 a house, $3,500 a week.
By just providing a value.
But that was it.
Marketplace value.
Absolutely. All I was doing was hauling trash, cleaning it up, and doing very well. And so well that I became arrogant and cocky about it, thinking I had discovered the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I had some lessons that I later learned along the way. But I had my high school buddies helping me, like 19 people working for me at one point, and we were just like, it was silly stuff. But so that's where I kind of got my first introduction to real estate, landscaping, and fast forward, I went into the golf course industry, building golf courses with Ben Crenshaw, Tom Weiskopf, those folks, British Open champion, 2-time Masters champion, and stuff like that. So, but what was interesting is I saw this late night infomercial.
Oh,
yeah, I was an infomercial guy.
Yes.
Saw the late.
That means they're real.
Yeah, exactly.
That means they can work.
Yeah. I'm the one percenter.
You're the one guy that made it work. Yeah,
I'm the one guy that made it work. Yeah. So, but I saw this late night infomercial.
I don't think I've heard this story.
And some new material.
Yeah.
And it was this attorney, and he was talking about like 37 different cash flows, and he'd teach you the business, blah blah blah. And so I sign up. I throw out he had financing. He had seller financing.
Nice.
He was financing his own program. I was like, all right, this is kind of cool. And so did that and paid $7,000 and spent 5 days in San Antonio, Texas at the hotel.
This was early 90s?
That one was, early 90s, like 90.
$7,000 product, early 90s.
Yeah, 95, 96.
Good for him.
Yeah.
That's impressive, actually.
Yeah, it was,
because that's basically equivalent of $100,000 product now.
Yeah,
or $50,000 product at least. Okay.
Yeah, it was, and it was 5 days, 5 full days, and so it was not. It was intense, but it was good. And they taught all these different cash flows, everything from factoring to medical receivables to credit card stuff, to notes, to business financing.
So in the early 90s, at this point, you're in your 20s yet? At that point,
yeah,
you're in your 20s at that point.
Yeah.
So early 90s, you're in your 20s, and already, in my opinion, that you've adopted a growth mindset at that point.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think that's actually something to point out, because most people never actually develop a growth mindset. They're always in a fixed mindset state.
Sure.
Do you think that was from your parents? Do you think that was coming from a background of entrepreneurs around you?
I think there's a big part of that because I grew up in an environment that was constant change.
Okay.
In a good way.
Yeah.
In
a healthy way.
Yeah, in a very healthy way. And so, my parents, they're still married they'll be 57 years next week.
Wow.
Yeah, like a couple weeks, like 10 days from now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've still married, my grand, all that stuff. But we were always like striving not striving for more, but striving for something new. Like we always liked doing new things.
Yeah.
And we'd go in, we'd master something, and then it was like, okay, let's go do something else now. And my father was in the pool business, and for 40 years he did pools, but he loved doing pools because every pool was a different pool.
Yeah, it was a unique piece.
Yeah,
okay.
And every homeowner was different. So that's what I did in landscaping. I like that because every yard was different.
And then that transitioned into a late night infomercial, which transitioned into you investing in yourself.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
grow into a new skill set, and then from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I got into the note space, when I narrowed it down, 30, 32, 34 cash flows down to one. That
was the one that resonated with you.
Well, it resonated with me, but what was interesting about it was I put like 5 fishing lines in the water at once. So I had one like medical receivables, credit card, automobile paper, airplane paper, and real estate notes. And because I had different people coming at me for different things. And the one that hit was the notes.
Was the real estate notes.
Yeah, was the real estate.
Was promissory notes.
Yeah,
okay.
And I immediately got rid of the rest. Like I just dumped the rest.
Okay,
and
that's cool.
Honed in really fast.
And then just started down that path and started, first transaction, second transaction.
Yeah.
Like what was your focus there at that point?
So back then I didn't have so I lived in an apartment or townhouse with a roommate. Our rent was like $620 a month. Mm-hmm. And if we weren't spending money on drinking, we saved enough money to pay rent. And that was that's how the balance, that was our work-life balance model.
Priority 1, priority 2.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in Texas, that's what you do. You that's just what you do. When you're invited to a barbecue, you need to bring, a pound of ground beef and probably a case of beer would be good entry fee to get into the backyard barbecue. But that's where we went with. So I was living there, and so I didn't have a lot of money. Like I didn't have reserves. I didn't have capital sitting in the bank because I was still working for Ben Crenshaw. Mm-hmm. And I loved working for Ben. If I ever had to go to work for corporate America again, that would be the one guy I would track down and go back to work for.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because
why?
I think I love the way that he treated people.
Okay.
He was just a genuinely good person, and he treated everybody amazingly well. And for that, I loved his business model, which was turf and agri. I used to manage the turf and all that stuff for his projects. And then just the quality of people that he always had around him.
So it almost had nothing to do with the, call it niche or business that he was in. It's more so how he treated people.
Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
more so the relational and leadership role.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the money was good. I mean, he paid me extremely well to do what I do.
Yeah.
Or what I did. But that would be the one guy I'd go back to. But jumping forward to not having a lot of money when I started, I started finding deals, what I call reverse engineering. So now, mind you, the internet wasn't what the internet is today back then.
I think it's important to point that out because it's funny. I'll watch a YouTube video now, say of like my favorite band or something in like 2001 or 2003 or 2004, something like that. I'm like, oh, well, first of all, I was like, well, man, why wasn't I there? Then I realized I was 12. And I was like, oh, that's why I wouldn't have been there. But the other side of that being everybody is engaged. You don't see an iPhone.
Right.
And that's because you realize it wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah.
Like so much has changed in the past decade and a half with technology, phones, the internet, especially the level, everybody's social media and level of interconnection.
Yeah.
That when you're talking about finding deals now, it's more boots on the ground. It's more interactive. I'm sure it's more physical effort.
Oh yeah.
To quote unquote locate the deal.
Yeah. Because you didn't have you weren't doing mailers and all this other stuff. If you wanted to deal, you had to figure out where the deal was at, and then you physically picked up the phone and called that person.
Yeah.
So if you had phone phobia or you were fear of phone, you were getting over it really, really fast.
You were going to defeat that weakness. Yeah,
absolutely. And so what I did is I would go across the street. There was a Circle K or a convenience store, and I would get the free newspapers, like the Thrifty Nickels, the Penny Savers, which were big in Texas.
Newspaper, that's the gray paper?
Yeah,
that's
the gray.
The one that unfolds?
Yeah, and you get the newsprint all over your hands so you don't touch anything. Or if you do, you better clean it, that type of thing. Yeah, that's exactly it. You could use a silly putty and you could copy the comics out of it? Do you ever do that as a kid?
No, that's super clever though.
Yeah,
I never thought
get the
about
silly
that.
putty the silly putty from the kids, and then you put it on the cartoon.
Yeah.
You flatten it out like a pancake, and then you can peel it up. And you got a
Really
cartoon on your silly
Now I
putty.
can have all my Calvin and Hobbes.
There you go.
Yeah, the greatest comic ever. For anybody that doesn't think that's the greatest comic ever, it's okay that you're wrong because like you can have bad taste because it allows me to have good taste.
Good taste,
So
exactly.
I can't be right unless you're wrong. So thank you.
There you go. There you go. But what I would do is I would open up the back of the paper. I'd go to the real estate section. There was always somebody selling a house, like 3-bedroom, 2-bath, owner financing, no bank needed. And I would call them and I would say, hey, you're going to be selling this house with owner financing. What are you going to do with the owner financing when you create it?
Yeah.
Like, well, we're going to sell it.
Mhm.
Great. Let's talk. And ultimately, it would lead to a conversation that I would learn that they oftentimes had 2 or 3 other ones
Yeah.
that they'd already done like 3 months earlier, 4 months earlier.
Right.
And I would start with those ones. And then once they sold the house, they would give me the new one as well. And that's how I started picking up deals.
And that transitions into 15,000 transactions.
Yeah, 15,000 transactions later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was all networking. Like I was providing value. They were needing value.
Do you believe those principles are the same today?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have to go into, so like the biggest reason I have the volume that we do is because literally, I'll be real honest, literally I was doing business for free to help some people out.
Yeah.
So if I go into a new relationship, I'll find out what that person needs and I'll go get it and give it to them.
Yeah. Hey, what can I provide up front first?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, how can I help you? And it's not as though it's a hook or they owe me or I'm keeping score or any of those.
Yeah,
other
you're not
things.
just focused on the law of reciprocity at that point. You are actually looking to provide value and lead out. You're leading out. That's really what you're doing. It's just being a leader at that point. Like, hey, this is where I want to take things. If it's a good fit, like they reach back.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they don't.
Yeah. Exactly.
But if they do, you have a flourishing relationship really quick. That's really how we met.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell this story.
Okay. Go for
Not yet. Okay. I'm going to tell the story.
Uh-huh.
But you know that you're not allowed to tell me certain pieces of the things that I don't know because that's what makes the story so good.
I will
for
take
me.
you to my grave.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe write it down. Maybe write it down so I can know sometime. Maybe tell Kim or something like that. So I do want to tell that story. So now Troy wasn't prepped for any questions or anything, especially during this first piece. So some of the things I think people will be interested in is when we talk about success, when we talk about money, dude, you're a guy who's lived with all the mansions, the private jets, the owning jets, the boats. You name it. You name it.
Yeah, we grew up.
You name it. You've had the honor of and the blessing of owning it. So, which is awesome. But people struggle to resonate with that because so few ever reach like a financial peak or level that can support something like that. So one of the things that I've realized that people typically resonate with me is it's not the success side. It's not the homes. It's not the cars. It's nothing like that. It's always, I started with $11.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And they can resonate with that because most people have $11.
Right. Right.
Some people only have 7. If you only have 7, it's okay.
Yeah.
If you have 100, you have 89 more than I did.
Yeah.
so you are rich.
You were one step further.
You are. Yeah, you're 89 steps closer. Good job. So one of the things I wanted to ask you was, in your growing up, what's something really difficult that you had to overcome in your childhood? Because I actually make the joke that I had a golden childhood.
Sure.
So for anybody who doesn't know, like my biggest privilege that I ever had is I had a stable household with 2 parents.
Yeah.
They loved each other and they loved me unconditionally.
Right.
That's my biggest privilege. Like I wish everybody had that.
Sure.
Because that is statistically, that is a factor that plays out in someone's success or financial well-being and mental health.
Oh yeah.
You can't even, it's difficult to put it on a scale.
Right.
Absolutely. So what's something difficult that you had to overcome early on that you had to make a decision? You had to make a decision. I'm going to go this path or this path.
I would say
and maybe it doesn't have to be childhood. Maybe just like there's a turning point somewhere in your life that you can go back to. Mine is when I was facing bankruptcy.
Okay.
I was facing bankruptcy. It was after I had finished my dream of focusing on playing professional baseball. Like baseball ended, and I was lost.
Right.
Got in credit card debt. didn't have any financial literacy, basically put myself into a bankruptcy position, made the decision not to go down that path,
Right.
went down the more difficult path to solve my problem, learn about it, and then teach it.
Right.
So
Sure.
So here we are today. But yeah, what moment in your life do you have that's something similar to that you had to make a decision that if you made the opposite decision, you wouldn't be sitting here?
Right. I would say there's a couple of them that come out.
More than welcome to tell them both.
Yeah. So as a kid, one of the things that as a kid, my parents raised my sister and I, because just my sister and I, to be very independent.
Sister's older, younger?
Younger. Yeah, she's 2 years younger than me. They raised us to be very independent. So they let us like fail all the time. And that was like a hard thing to learn as a kid, because you think, okay, you're my parents, you're supposed to save me.
Yeah.
Like when I do stupid stuff. But my parents were like the opposite. Like, you need to learn. And
it turned out to be a healthy habit.
It absolutely did. So, there were a lot of times where I would do things and I would just like, man, that didn't work at all. And I'd have to just own it. It was never a beat up. It was never like, you're foolish for doing those kinds of things. Those kinds of things. It was always like, so what'd you learn? I learned this and this and this. Okay, what are you going to do different next time? I'm going to do this and this.
You didn't have mistakes condemned.
No.
Which a lot of households do. They avoid mistakes at all costs. And it's like, we're like, please go make more mistakes right now.
Exactly. Especially when kids are young.
Yeah.
Because when they make mistakes under your roof, then you can work with them and you can speak about the situation. It's when kids move out of the house and they start making mistakes that they can
really detrimental.
Very detrimental. You know, and so that was one of those things that I there was a part of me that as a kid, I was irritated about it because my friends didn't have those kinds of parents. Their parents were always saving them. Yeah. And my parents wouldn't save me.
Yeah.
And I never got like hurt. Like I wasn't.
You felt out. You felt out. You left out.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what's different about me?
Yeah, exactly. And I think I think part of it is they saw something in me and they encouraged, they encouraged me to go for it. Like, go do that, do this. And the contrary was different. Like you were a big sports kid growing up.
Yeah. It's the only thing that mattered.
Yeah. And I was not a big sports kid. Like I played soccer and I played football up to my junior year in high school, but that was it. Like I didn't live for sports as a whole. I played it, and my parents didn't really come to the games. Like they came, but it was sporadically.
Yeah.
And I would see other kids' parents come to the games all the time. And what I started realizing was that when you start looking at odds and percentages of the number of kids that make it.
It's small.
Yeah. It's very small.
That was something I always had to overcome.
Yeah. It was very small. And my parents were very much into growing their businesses and things like that. So I got to be around that. But that was a kind of a kid thing. But going into adult years, I'll tell you what the biggest one is. Pick the right partner.
Pick the right partner?
Pick the right partner. Because I've picked bad partners, both in business
and in marriage. Talking about business or you're talking about marriage?
Both.
Both?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
I think you have to know who you are.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
That was a good answer.
Yeah, you got to know who you are first.
You can't have... Someone else isn't going to fulfill you.
No, never.
You don't want to get into... Welcome to marriage counseling.
Yeah.
You can't get into a business partner relationship and or marriage or anything like that without understanding not only who you are, but you have to be in a position for you to give yourself, not to share yourself, not look for someone else to fulfill you, which is a huge difference.
Yeah. It's a very huge difference. And like I look at relationships now, I look at it as a 9-piece puzzle. So like kind of like a tic-tac-toe board. And I look at it like I'll go in.
Piece 1, everybody write this down.
So I look at it like, okay, I'll typically have about 5 of the pieces in a relationship, 5 or 6 of the pieces in a relationship that take to make it work. I'm looking for somebody else to have the other 3 that I don't have, plus some overlapping pieces.
That's interesting.
To make it work.
So you said you picked some bad partners before.
Yeah.
So that's something you've overcome.
Well, I can't say I perfected it, but I would say I've got a pretty clean record for the last decade.
Yeah. I mean, that's unrealistic to say that, we've perfected anything like that.
Yeah.
But tell us a story about a bad pick. Like the detriment of a bad pick.
Oh, gosh. So my last relationship, meaning marriage, that was a terrible pick. And there were some things that when I went into it, I hadn't been in a relationship in a while. But then when I entered into the relationship, there were red flags that were popping up, and I was trying to ignore them. I was
cover them up.
Yeah, I was covering up. I was trying to fix things. I was a savior, that kind of thing. And it became very unhealthy for her, and it became very unhealthy for me.
Yeah.
And therein lies the beginning of a out of control relationship. And at some point you gotta get off the plane.
And then you got to make the more difficult, painful decision to get off the plane.
Yeah.
Or climb down the wrong mountain to climb back up the right one.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a lot of when you get in the wrong. I'll tell you here. So here's how you know you're in the wrong relationship. First and foremost, how do they talk to themselves? Because how they talk to themselves is exactly how they'll talk to you. So if they're like, well, I don't believe I can do this, I don't believe this, I don't believe that, then that's how they'll also talk to you about you and your dreams.
Yeah.
So if they don't believe they can do it themselves, then they really can't believe that you can do it for yourself. As an entrepreneur, or even if somebody's going back to school, like, if they didn't finish school and because they didn't believe they could do it, they may not be that person to support you in going back to school, maybe getting a college degree or something like that.
Yeah, that fixed mindset alongside a growth mindset.
Oh,
that gap grows.
It does.
Really quick.
Yeah.
That happens with friendships and things too, especially when you make new decisions. I think one of the scariest things for people is, well, I'm going to lose my friends, or they're not going to this or that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why would you want to keep them? If you're growing.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason. Like when somebody looks at you and they go, "Oh, you've changed."
Mm-hmm.
Damn right, I've changed.
I hope I have.
I've been working hard to change.
Yeah, it's a new day. I should be changing. The sun went down. The sun came up.
You know what? Next time, alert me when I don't change.
Yeah,
alert me when I'm not changing.
Yeah,
and that'll be more beneficial for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, everything in our world changes, but we as human beings don't want to change, which is really kind of weird to me. Like even the grass in everybody's front yard changes. It grows every week.
Yeah.
Flowers change, trees change, roadways change, clouds change. Everything changes.
But it's comfy to stay the same as a person.
Yeah. But we as humans want to stay comfortable.
Yeah. And we're the only things that try to be something that we're not.
Yes. So we were talking about, a bird is just a bird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's so true. I think you have to, if you really, as a person, as a human being, if you really want to get the most out of life, both on a personal level, business level, spiritual level, a monetary level, you've got to be willing to change every day. Every day is a new day as a business owner. I've never had 2 duplicate days in business ever. Every day is a new day. I might have some habits that are similar. I might have some schedules that are similar. I might have some driving routes that are similar, but every day is a new day.
So we met 2018?
Yeah.
2018?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like around September-ish.
September.
Yeah.
So I'll tell this story to lead into the next question.
Yeah.
First off, nice shoes.
Thanks, man.
What were the chances of us wearing the exact same zebra Yeezys? Like this? I mean, I don't know what the chances of that were, but they're really small. So for anybody watching on YouTube, there you go. Look at that. Okay. So we met. I was at my parents' house. And my first book, If You Can't Wholesale After This, I've Got Nothing For You, had just published. It had come out. I was at my parents' house and I got a phone call. And I didn't recognize the number. Now, for anybody that knows me personally, I'm basically impossible to get a hold of.
Yeah.
I don't return text messages. I have over 1,000 missed text messages. For anybody with anxiety right now, I understand. I have over 1,000 missed text messages that are just left unread. I struggle to get to the phone. I don't call back. Like I'm horrible to get a hold of. I understand that. So the chances of me picking up a number that I don't know, basically zero.
Yeah.
So I'm at my parents' house and I get this phone call from a number that I don't recognize. For whatever reason, I pick it up. I have no idea.
Out of state number.
Out of state number, nonetheless.
Yeah.
I have no idea why. And on the voice on the other end of the line says, "Hey, is this Todd?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is Todd." It's like, "Hey, my name's Troy Fullwood. I wanted to congratulate you on the launch and publish of your book, and I read it and I thought it was really good and impactful. I just wanted to congratulate you on that." Here's me standing in my parents' driveway at this point, going, "What? Like, what is this? What is it?" I had no clue who you were at this time.
Right.
If I would have, man, it probably would have been like fanboying or shaking or something. I no clue at this point. So, and we ended up talking for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
I remember that. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
To this day,
Yeah.
I have absolutely no idea how you got my phone number. So I'm just going to allow, that's the piece he's not allowed to tell me, because that's what makes the story so good.
Yeah.
Because we stayed in touch after that, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Texted back and forth here and there. But mostly, going back to your point a few moments ago, you called me basically to congratulate me on the book and rave about it.
Yeah.
Very little was about market or anything. It was anything else. We were celebrating the success of the book.
Right. Yeah.
So that goes back to your earlier point of like, hey, you reached out first, and like, and if the other person reaches back, it could be a flourishing relationship, which it has obviously become.
Yeah,
which I'm,
absolutely.
Eternally grateful for. My gratitude knows no bounds for your friendship.
I love it.
And so we talked for a couple hours on the phone. I have no idea how you got my number, which will remain
A secret.
Which will remain a secret for now. So we ended up having a live event. In the Kingdom, we have live events, every quarter. And the one we were having happened to be in Arizona.
Yeah. In November.
I can't remember if I knew you lived in Arizona yet or not. I think I knew.
We talked about it in the call.
Yeah, I think we talked about it. Yeah. But me and you were just happened to be talking again. I hadn't even thought about this.
Yeah.
And you were like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm actually in Scottsdale or near Scottsdale."
Yeah.
And you were like, "Well, where are you at?" I was like, "Oh, we got an event going on. We're here for the next couple of days."
Yeah.
And you showed up.
Yeah. Yeah. On a Saturday night of all things, which I don't do.
Yeah,
by the way.
Saturday. Yeah, you don't leave the family.
Yeah.
Which we're going to get into that here in a little bit too.
Yeah.
But Saturday night, you came, you showed up, which I was blown away by.
Yeah.
And you spoke to everybody, which was incredible.
Yeah.
And I'll take one step back. After our phone call, our couple-hour phone call, one of my lenders at the time, she's great. She's out of New York City. She had asked me what I did, like the day before. Like I had a meeting the next day with her, something about lending on a property, and she asked what I did the previous day. I was like, it was super unique. I got a call from this guy, and she's like, "Oh, really?" And I was like, "Yeah, his name's like Troy Fullwood." And she stopped in her tracks. She was like, "Troy Fullwood called you," and I was like, "Is that a big deal?" I was like, "Yes." And she ran and raved about you because you were known in that space due to the Wall Street funds, all that.
Yeah,
and that's where she comes from. Yeah, big lending out there. So you coming and showing up at the event was a huge deal to me. Being able to pour into everybody and the love and knowledge and wisdom and everything that you shared and gave again on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
So thank you for that again. But my question for all of that is like, okay, private jet life, mansion life, new house life, finishing building a new house as we speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, wow. You've been a mentor within the Kingdom for basically 4 years now, because once you came to the live event, you joined the community and you were like, hey.
Yeah, it was a great group of people.
Yeah, you're like, hey, how do I be you asked, you're like, how do I be a part of this? Please join this group.
Yeah.
I have absolutely no money to pay you. But
it was fun. It started out fun. I'm like, I like doing fun stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So that leads me into, you're living this life. You have your family, which you're extremely dedicated to. Why in the world, like, you continue to be a lead mentor in Ascension, like top tier mentorship, like very, very inclusive, very intimate. Like people have access to you. Why in the world do you want to do that? If, like, you don't have to. Like, why in the world do you want to help?
I think so.
A couple up and comers, if you will. Like you're solidified.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You never have to work again if you don't want.
Right.
So why in the world would you want to work with somebody?
I think there comes a point in life where you have to, like, so I have two boys. I have 5 children altogether. My youngest 2 boys, all the other ones are grown and out of the house and stuff. And the 2 that are 9, there's a big part of me that I have to continue to walk the walk. I have to continue to role model, and because they're watching everything that I do. So if I'm not giving, if I'm not pouring into other people, how are they going to know how to pour into other people? And so, and it's imperative, it's important in this world that when you reach a level of success, no matter what that may be, and it doesn't matter what even industry it's in, I think you have to reach back and help people to the next step, whatever their next step is. Sometimes it's going from the floor to a box on top of a box. Sometimes it's going up all the way up the ladder. And I think that's their own personal journey. But what I've found is, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 30 minutes here. Not only does it help them, but for me, there's a great sense of satisfaction that there's a legacy being left even outside of my family. Like my legacy is I built a legacy for my family, but now you start looking around and building legacies outside of that.
Okay.
Because like for me, I did not realize how fortunate I was growing up in the environment that I grew up in, because I took it for granted. It was just my aunts and uncles and, owning businesses and running business. To me, that was normal.
It's what you grew up around.
That's what I grew up around. And so, and what I later learned as a young adult, that it was not normal at all. And that a lot of other people wanted to learn those things in those aspects to being financially free.
Yeah.
Financially free. So for me, it's about helping people to break generational curses, financial curses, having a healthy relationship with money, embracing change, because it's just a part of our world, no matter what.
Yeah.
If you don't believe me, just read the news, because every day it's a whole new set of stories.
Yeah.
Like it or not. It's
Please don't make me watch the news.
Yeah, I don't watch the news, but so I'm not encouraging that. But if you wanted to pop in and see what yesterday's news was versus today, that would prove my point. But yeah, that's what it is for me. And
so it's developing purpose.
It's developing purpose. It's part of my purpose, of who I am. I mean, like one of the things, and so to the people out there that are trying to figure out purpose, the answer to that is really simple, and that is, start where you're at. That's your purpose. Like that's your purpose for today. So if you're a mother or a father, start with your family. Start with your household. That's your purpose. It might be a short season. It might be a long season, depending upon what it is, but that's your purpose. Mm-hmm. If you're running a business and you're single and that can be a purpose, in giving back. I've got friends that are running businesses and their purpose is running those businesses, but also like sharing their gift in doing so. So a purpose doesn't oftentimes people think their purpose has to be like Moses leading people from out of the wilderness and into the promise.
I gotta save everybody.
Yeah. Like focus on saving yourself first. Save yourself first. And I learned that as a kid when I used to spend my summers at this public pool by our house, because we didn't have a pool. Even though my dad was a pool builder, he never would build us a pool. That's
funny how that works. They're a car mechanic that doesn't have a running car.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a story for another day. I'll tell you how mom got him to overcome that later on. But we would go to this public pool, and every summer they would have Red Cross classes, and how to save, CPR, that kind of stuff. And so every summer I would sign up for it, because it was just a public pool, big square pool with 2 high dives, and that was it.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have all the lily pad ponds and all the, super duper slides like they do nowadays in kids' pools. So I took these classes. Well, you learn really quick that when you're a lifeguard and you go to save somebody who's drowning in the water, the number one thing you have to remember is to keep your distance. Because you have to save yourself first. because the natural instinct is that if you get too close, they will climb on top of you and drown you to save themselves.
Nice. That's a great trade.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. Well, it's a natural, it's a fight or flight.
It's an instinct.
It's an instinct. Yeah. So when you see Baywatch, if you've ever watched Baywatch, and
could you explain to me how Baywatch works?
I can explain it from a Pamela Anderson perspective. So as Pamela would run into the ocean with this buoy flotation device behind her, it was to throw that to the other person.
Yeah.
And so, but I think
when you're going down in a plane, put your own mask on first, or whenever the plane loses
oxygen and all that. Yeah. But oftentimes in life, we don't think about that stuff.
Yeah.
So, because you can't give unless you have something, you can't give it away. Now, I think everybody has a gift. I think everybody has a purpose. But I think sometimes we overthink those things.
Is that why you built the women's shelters in Mexico?
Yeah. Yeah. The women's shelters are awesome.
To continue to feed that purpose?
Yeah. I love planting trees that I'll never sit under. That's my purpose in life. I plant trees that I can't sit under.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah. So like when I help somebody do their first note deal, my vision is that's step one of a whole journey of deals for that family.
That's more exciting than you doing the next transaction.
Yeah. The next transactions are honestly boring.
I've done 15,000 of them, so
yeah, it's kind of like I've had enough vanilla ice cream.
Are you still tracking how many you've done?
Yeah, I think we're over 20,000 now. Yeah, over 20,000.
Yeah, just makes me wheeze. Don't make me wheeze. That makes me wheeze. Like that is unbelievable.
Well, keep in mind we do a lot of portfolio stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, still.
Yeah,
I mean that's
we do a lot of that. Like last week we did.
To your humbleness, let me downplay 20,000 transactions.
Yeah.
let me normalize this a little bit. Nah, it's not normal. Like I'm going to celebrate your success. Like I'm excited about it. That's incredible because it gives us more runway too. It gives everybody around you more runway.
Yeah.
Like you leading that out, which actually leads me into my next point.
Okay.
So I am eternally grateful. My gratitude knows no bounds for you mentoring, coaching, and helping the community within the Kingdom Axiom Ascension.
Yeah. Love it.
And I will, you would be, I don't know how dumb you'd have to be to not follow your guidance step by step when it comes to a transaction.
Yeah.
But that's not actually the most important thing that you do for me.
Okay.
Do you know that?
No.
So what you do for me is I'm watching how you interact with your wife. I'm watching how you handle your children.
Okay.
I'm becoming a better man because of you.
Well, that's cool.
So I'm not watching I am watching the real estate stuff. Sure. Of course, like I said, you'd have to be absolutely out of your mind to not follow that and not, find guidance in it and take steps and actions and learn from it. I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah. But
the things that I'm watching, I'm watching how you interact with your twins when they wear you down.
Yeah.
I'm watching, it's the little things that you say to me. We made a joke yesterday. I can't remember exactly what it was now, but you're like, it's Jesus would have seen it moment, even though it would have been funny. And we were like, and I was like, yeah, it's tough to argue that. It's tough to argue that. Those are actually the things that you do for me.
Okay, good.
That are on a whole nother level.
Awesome.
So I'm watching you, interact with Kim, your wife. I'm watching you just on a daily basis, never be in a rush.
Yeah. You've
completely eliminated rush and hurry from your life, which I have continuously worked on and strived for. And I am proud to say that I don't get in a rush too much. Sometimes I get impatient. I like to be aggressively patient.
Okay.
Angrily patient.
Yeah.
No, but I'm serious. I've never seen you in a rush.
Yeah.
Not a single time. And the things that you talk about, hey, me and the other wealthy friends that I have, no one's in a rush.
No.
They all have a plan for debt or eliminate debt. Yeah. And there's principles that you follow that I continue to, I just wanted to let you know this.
I appreciate that.
That way you could know that you're actually affecting at a much deeper level than I think you even realize.
Yeah. Well, I didn't realize it from that perspective, but I appreciate that because it helps, it validates what I'm doing. And that not that I haven't felt that I matter, but that it's working. Good things are happening.
Oh yeah.
So when the twins were born, what I learned when they were born, and this is probably more like when they were 1 or 2, Camden, who's my older twin, he's like literally my shadow.
By 8 minutes.
Yeah, by 8 minutes. Yeah, by 8 minutes.
My older twin.
Yeah,
that was a great line too.
And the twins are 8 minutes apart, but they're a world apart in personality.
Yeah, it's incredible to watch them together.
Yeah, they're very how I handle one is not how I handle the other one. But Camden is like my ongoing shadow, and he literally like cherishes the ground that I walk on. And when he came into the world and I started seeing that, I realized I had to become a better person than what I was. And I always try and like, okay, yesterday was yesterday. I'm going to do better today.
Yeah.
And my mom's always said, when you know better, you can do better. That's all there is to it.
Better information, better output.
Better information, better output. And so it was always that around the house. Like, you know, when you know better, you do better. So
is that a feeling, or do you measure that somehow?
If there's a measuring aspect to it, it's really internally with my emotions. Like, how am I handling this? Is this the best way I can handle this? You know, if I lose my cool, if I say something that's inappropriate, if I, you know, and I have my moments where I'm, because I'm human, where I'll get upset about something. You know, I'll oftentimes go back and like, okay, could I have handled that better? Number one. And then number two, immediately apologizing.
So reflection and ownership.
Yeah.
Reflection and ownership.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to grow, you have to.
Yeah.
And you know, I've yet to meet a person who can walk on water. So I think when that day comes, we're going to have a whole different conversation going on. But right now, yeah, you have to own it. You have to own it to be a better dad, to be a better husband, to be a better business owner, to be a better leader. You know the
other thing that you've taught me?
What's that?
Maybe is at the top of the list is to have grace for yourself.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Grace is huge. You know, it's one of those things. And grateful. Be grateful.
Yeah, man. It's just being able to find the positive in even the negative, perceived negative things around you.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just give a quick example. For anybody that's a parent, you're going to be able to resonate with this basically immediately. So, you know, watching Wyatt's 6th birthday, at the time of recording this, Wyatt's 6th birthday was the other day. He celebrated by eating a family-sized bag of Starburst and throwing up for the first time ever and being completely blown away and surprised by it. Right? Oh, what happened?
Your stomach doesn't like that much.
Yeah, exactly. So we learned that. And I just remember Denise, my wife, saying like, oh, I feel so bad for him. I wish I could do something to help him. Mm-hmm. And I actually told her, we actually had a conversation about how I was super grateful that it happened. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm so grateful. Like, he's healthy.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that our level of problem here, it's completely fake and in our heads. Right. It's just like, he ate too many Starbursts and he threw up and he's completely fine like 12 hours later. You know what I mean? You know, being able to have that mindset or perspective over dwelling in something and allowing something small to become large. Right. Such, you talked about red flags earlier. Little red flags become big red flags. Yeah, you got to solve them. Yeah. You got to solve them. So one of the things that you've taught me is having that grace and perspective of like, because I've watched things not go perfect for you, obviously. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Things, you know what I mean? And business and life and personal and the housing stuff. I watched you go through.
We'll have to do a whole podcast, like a series of podcasts. Yeah. It's been like a 6-month journey.
Yeah, a 6-month journey to getting this house built and everything and finished. So I've just watched the grace and gratitude throughout and never a single problem derailing. Right. And it's just, getting back to solving and things like that. So,
and I'll be like, let me interject here. So that being said, that doesn't mean that I haven't had like turmoil in my head about it. Because there have been times where I'm looking at this going, all right, this sucks, but I'm saying it in my head. So this is the difference of maturity. I used to say things out loud. Now I don't tend to say them out loud. I just say them in my head and I go, okay, and you've said it. Now, how do you address it? Yeah. Because I've learned if you say things out loud, you end up apologizing more, especially if they're not the right things. Yeah. And
which if you're reacting and not responding, they're almost always the wrong thing.
Exactly. And because I'm human, there's
not that they never slip out.
Yeah. Like there's been times I've gone to the bathroom by myself and those types of things. But I want to say that because we're just human. Like that's the grace part.
Yeah.
Like I'm having like, oh God, this stinks. And so my mind will go there, but I realize it, I see it, and I slow down for the turn.
Yeah.
That's coming up. I didn't plan for the turn. I just wanted to go straight for 100 miles, and at the 50-mile mark, now I got to turn. So I got to slow down to make it.
Right.
And that's all there is to it. That's that change thing. So when you embrace the fact that there's always change, and you're not putting these crazy expectations on every single part of your life going perfect 24/7. Don't get me wrong. I love it when it goes perfect 24/7, but that's just not real.
Yeah, it almost becomes numbing.
Yes.
When it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of like what I talked about earlier. If you don't like Calvin and Hobbes, you just have bad taste.
Exactly. Exactly. Great point.
Yeah, you can't have good taste without bad taste. Like there are moments in which like your triumph is created by the struggle. Your struggle becomes your strength.
Yes.
Your strength becomes your income a lot of times.
Yes.
I mean, look what I've developed my purpose into is teaching financial literacy. Mm-hmm. What if like a decade ago when I was in financial turmoil, if I didn't make that decision to go down the path of fixing it and really making a decision there, I'm not here.
Right.
I'm not here. I'm probably a victim somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Like down in the dumps or trying to figure out how to get hired at a 9 to 5. I could never get hired at a job.
That was a funny story, by the way.
I can't get hired at a job. So
not even the ticket guy.
I'm literally unhireable. Yeah. Most people say that like, because I'm an entrepreneur. No, I am actually unhireable. I could never get hired at a job. I've like never had a job. I couldn't get a job. Every time I applied for something, they said no.
Which is a blessing, which has turned out to be a blessing.
Turned out to have grace for yourself.
To have grace.
Maybe there's a different perspective here that I'm not seeing yet.
Yeah. Which is awesome. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that my philosophy in life is really simple. It's the people that make it difficult. And so many people want to make life harder than it is. When if you just get up, like every morning before I get out of bed, before I even put my feet on the ground, all I say is thank you. Because it's another day. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you have that another day to do whatever you didn't finish yesterday. You know, whether that was spending time with family, friends, project, a deal, whatever it is, you got another day, you got another shot at it. And when you realize it from that perspective that, okay, I'm here. I'm not going to take this for granted. Because I've had a lot of people not make it around me. Like a lot of family members have passed on, and great mind, great wisdom that left with them that they didn't have a chance to share it like this. Yeah, they took to their grave just a boatload of knowledge that even my grandfather, my grandfather, my grandma. There was times I wish as 18 I would have been a lot more open-minded. I was Google before Google was Google, so I knew everything at 18, I don't know if any of you ever had that issue, but I did. So I wouldn't listen to my grandfather. I would listen, but I wouldn't listen. Mm-hmm. It was one of those things. Like I had respect for him. I loved him and I would hear what he was saying, but I never applied what he was saying. Yeah. So I wasn't really hearing the value of it.
It's impressive. Google before Google.
I was Google before Google. Yeah.
Okay, so a big piece of your, I don't even want to call it motivation. I don't think motivation's real. Mm-hmm. I really don't. I think momentum is. I don't think motivation's real, though.
Right. How do you motivate? How do you, that's the whole thing.
Here's how I'll prove motivation's not real.
Okay.
Anytime that you've needed it, has it been there?
No.
Not a single time.
No.
But what always is momentum. If you're in a bad mood, you can do something that you don't want to do, whether it be in your business or whatever. And after you do that one thing, you want to do the rest. Right. That's momentum, not motivation. So I think motivation's fake and momentum's real. I think what I hear from you, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is your motivator or momentum building tool is self-actualization. It's not money. It's not a result. It's not a finish line here or there. It's not a measurement of your success. It's not. We know income and money can be a measurement tool. There's no doubt about that. We know that. We're not arguing that. Yeah. But what I've come to realize from the most successful people, and the most fulfilled people, which is the big one for me. So you're a leader in that category. For me, I'm always tuning into Radio Troy. I'm always tuning in to your radio station if it's like fulfillment or direction based.
Good.
Because it's always based in self-actualization and just wanting to become the best and improve the people around you. So it's actually for self-improvement and the progression of it versus like a figmental finish line.
Yeah. Well, so my idea of self-improvement and the reason I do what I do is I'm my greatest cheerleader and my worst enemy, all wrapped into one. So I'm the greatest cheerleader when I accomplish something. But immediately after accomplishing something and enjoying the celebration and celebrating my wins, I immediately move the finish line.
Yeah.
I immediately move it.
Yeah.
And so I become my worst enemy because I now just created a whole nother.
You got a new thing. Yep.
So and so I use the word enemy, maybe not in the proper context there, but my point being is that what I want to do is I'm the only person who can decide what's right for me and the direction I want to go in life. And I do it with a set of principles that are based on morals and values in my business and in my family. And I stick to those on a regular basis. And I know that sometimes it's not necessarily going to fast track success in things because sometimes it takes a little longer. But I know that I'll get there and I'll sleep well at night. And if I can keep showing people that there's a better way, then people will, in other words, I'm not going to tell you there's a better way. I'm just going to show you there's a better way.
I have so many questions.
Okay. I can tell. You're like,
I have so many questions. Where do you get the confidence and faith for that?
I think, so here's the easiest way to create confidence in a person. So every day, I have a list of things to do every day in my mind. Some people want to like writing things down. Sometimes I have some on my phone, but then I have just ideas in my head. Mm-hmm. So every day I get up and I immediately go to work on those things. Now, I'll tell you what the list consists of a lot of days. Sometimes it's, I got to get up and answer some emails. You got to make a few phone calls.
The traditional stuff that people would think of on a checklist.
Right.
Okay.
But then I add to that, I need to spend time in prayer. I need to mow the yard. I need to get my cars washed. I need to put gas in them. I need to spend time with my boys. I need to fix my son's tire. I need to do all of these things that you do. And to me, every time I accomplish one of those things, it's a win because it matters.
Yeah, you're literally time blocking leadership at that point.
Absolutely. And so at the end of the day, when I get done with them, even if I don't accomplish everything, like my list is 10 items long and I accomplish 9 out of 10, that's 90%. I'll take 90%.
Yeah.
Any day of the week.
Yeah.
And there's some things that I don't.
That goes back to that grace.
Yes, absolutely.
That we talked about. Because most people, that one item would derail them for a month.
See, like when I went to high school, if I was like 75% or better on a paper, I was happy. Like I was okay. I didn't have to have 104%. On a paper. I was never that kid.
If you're speaking to somebody that gets derailed by that one item not being done, or 1,000 text messages being unread.
Yeah.
Like if you're that person, if you're speaking to the person who has to get rid of that notification on their phone, what is that? How do you overcome that? Because that's really correlated together. It has to be this perfect thing. I have to have perfect over progression.
Right.
Which I think is that's the devil. Like you can't have perfection. Right. You can strive for it all you want.
Exactly.
But if you allow it to take from you.
Yes. So this ties into a conversation I just had with my wife this morning. Mm-hmm. So we were on the phone and she said, well, the people who bought our house, they wanted to do this, and this. So they like called her last night at like 8:30 at night and they gave her this whole list of things to do. And so I said, did you sleep last night?
House is already closed, too.
It's already closed. I already got the money.
Yeah, you already got the money.
Money's in my bank account. Yeah, there's no right of rescission, none of that stuff. None of those things. But they've been kind of slowly encroaching in on my wife's time and our plan.
Yeah.
And so she was like, well, what do I do? And I've kind of let her handle it because if I would have handled it, I probably would have like built the wall a lot faster and not allowed things to happen. because I'm very much like, this is stealing my peace. So if it steals my peace, you can't have it.
That's the 9 out of 10.
That's the 9 out of 10. Like, you can't have it because you're stealing my peace. Now, I'll help you, but I'll help you based on, terms that work for both of us. And I have to manage those terms. So oftentimes when I want to help somebody, and this is my thing, I want to do it like right now.
Yeah.
Well, that may be stealing time from something else I already promised. So now I'm out of agreement over here, and I'm trying to solve something over here that didn't land on my plate until 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can do those things. So back to my point of, in your question, I was talking to my wife. I said, here's how we lay this out. Like, we're moving on this day. Movers are here on this day. We can meet from this time to this time to go over the house. And everybody needs to be present, both realtors, everybody. So it's a one-time deal.
Yeah.
You got 2 weeks notice. Here's what the deal is. And she goes, but they wanted to meet after 6. I said, we're not meeting after 6 because I'm going to be out of state by after 8. So I'm leaving the state. So you're not, and they've always kind of done that. Like, you have to work around our schedule. We're not going to work around your schedule.
Yeah.
I said, no. There's nothing in the contract that says that. So there's no legal obligation. And
that's you literally delegating to the 9 out of 10 checklist.
Yeah.
Hey, I determine.
It's my life.
So what I use for that, it's called Elastic Habits.
Okay.
You ever heard of that?
No,
you ever heard of
that
Elastic
one.
Habits?
No.
So Elastic Habits is basically a scoring system.
Okay.
You don't have to use a scoring system, but just understanding that, hey, you're going to have, say, your checklist or things that you want to get done in a month or a week or whatever it is. Yeah. And what you can do is you can assign points to them.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So say you want to get in better shape.
Right.
Which you've obviously done a wonderful job of recently. How much have you lost?
68 pounds.
That's crazy.
Yes.
That's unbelievable.
Pounds, yeah.
So perfect example. There you go. So like, hey, I want to lose whatever weight you wanted to lose. And you have, 3 or 4 different categories that you can do that. I can eat better.
Yeah.
I can exercise.
Yeah.
I can heavily exercise, or I can like weight lift, right? So there's like 3 or 4 different categories.
Sure.
So maybe if you just eat better that day, but you don't exercise, you get 1 point.
Yeah.
And if you eat better and you happen to do a little light exercise, say you walk around the block, you get 3 points. Like that walking is worth 2, heavy workouts worth like 5.
Sure.
And you just know by the end of the week, you got to get to 20 points. So you can have a couple of days where it's just a 1 or a 2 pointer.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But you got to get to 20.
Okay.
So it allows you to build momentum. Again, back to that motivation's fake, momentum's real.
Right.
So it allows you to have grace for yourself. So like most people, when they want to work out, what do they want to do? I got to work out 5 days a week, every single week, and I can't miss it.
Yeah.
And then when they miss a day, they have no grace.
Yeah.
They have no elasticity to the building of the habit.
Yes.
So therefore, I failed. So I'm back to 0.
Yes.
You don't get the dopamine hit. I mean, you go into the chemistry of it and you do all that.
Right.
And you'll realize that's why people fail. They get back in the old habit loop, and then they're really in trouble.
Yeah.
They can't get build a new habit because of
vicious cycle.
Yeah. So how I eliminated that 9 out of 10 anxiety or stress was just understanding 9 out of 10. That'd be 9 points. If I want to get to 30 by the end of the end of the week, I'm well ahead.
Yeah.
Well ahead.
That's good. That's good. I like that.
So it starts building your momentum, and then later on you can get more aggressive in your point system.
Sure.
Like, I want to get to 50 by the end of the week.
Right.
And then you go back and forth.
I love it.
So that's actually how I build habits. It's called Elastic Habits.
Okay.
So that's actually what I do. It's very similar to actually what you're doing. I just have like literally a point system accounted to it. I don't necessarily have to do the points anymore because I've adopted it. And now it's actually habit.
Right.
But in the beginning, I absolutely had to assign points and track them for every little thing, whether it was business oriented, workout oriented, you name it, whatever it was.
Sure.
Whatever I wanted to build into.
Right.
So you're building confidence and faith through not only experience, your grace and understanding and self-awareness.
Right.
You're continuing to build your purpose that way.
Yeah.
So do you ever think like, oh, what's next?
Oh, all the time.
All the time?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that look like? I'm actually kind of surprised that you say all the time.
Well, I think all the time because I know I'm always, the road never ends.
Yeah.
There's
you don't want it to.
I don't want it to. Yeah, exactly.
You want to play forever.
Exactly. I want to play forever.
Yeah.
And so there's a gosh, I just drew it. Robert Earl Keen, who's a country western singer out of Texas. He has.
Could he be from anywhere else?
Yeah, exactly. Great singer, but just a good guy. But he used to have a song, and when I lived in Texas, we adapted this. My roommate and I. He says, and the song was called "The Road Goes On Forever and the Party Never Ends," and that was his song. That was his album, and we would, and that's just life. Like the road goes on forever, and life never ends. Like the party never ends.
Yeah,
the party may change, and I don't look at it from like a college type party, but I look at it like life is a party. Like how can we get the most out of everything that we do?
Yeah.
But so that's why when you ask the question, I'm constantly thinking about what's next. Like the fact that we're going into this season where we're actually physically upping the whole family and moving across country, and I told my wife, I said, you need to understand, like the next 30 to 90 days, 30 to 60 days, like this will be our core focus, and everything else will be secondary to it.
I see what you mean now.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. It's not so much looking forward as in like, man, what's my next finish line?
Right.
It's looking forward as you see what you're pointed at.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you focus on is what you see.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people are like, no, that's backwards. What you see is what you focus on. No. What you focus on is what you actually see.
Absolutely.
So if you go buy a new car, suddenly you see that new car everywhere.
Yes.
Because you're focused on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've said that I love that because I've said that for years. I'm like, you could want a red Corvette, and nobody has a red Corvette until you leave the dealership with a red Corvette.
And then they all got a red Corvette. And they all got the same custom plate too for all the Corvette people out there.
Exactly. Exactly.
That guy's got all the custom plates.
Exactly. But yeah, and I say that because, I want to establish like this is the season. Like it's going to be. Some people say seasons, and a season in their eyes is like 10 years. I'm like, no, season
it could be an hour and a half.
It could be an hour and a half. It could be 30 days. It could be 90 days. But this is just where we're going to be for a while, and to give grace to the other things that won't be a part of that circle for a little bit. We'll bring them back in, but they're going to sit on the sidelines for a little bit.
So your focus is designing a life in which you can wake up and feel good every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which, by the way, it is possible.
It absolutely is possible.
It's possible. Like I wake up every day, and feel good.
Yeah, yeah. And you start with
barring outside factors. You know what I mean? Like things in life, but I wake up every day,
right,
and I feel good.
Yeah,
I feel grateful. I feel fulfilled. I feel energized.
Yes,
and I'm just like ready. 5 years ago, I couldn't have said that.
Oh wow, that's a big one.
I don't know if I could have said that 3 years ago.
That's a big
three or 4 years. I was working towards it 3 or 4 years ago.
Sure.
First couple of years of even the kingdom being around, I don't think I could have said that. A majority of the days, but there's still those few days where it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, or like still fighting through this or fighting through that, whether it be a family thing or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, like the folks that are out there listening going like, what does that look like?
I just want to feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like and you start with like one day. Like I don't care what tomorrow looks like. I need to have the best version of today.
Yeah.
And start with that.
Or best version of one moment during the day.
Exactly.
How can I lay one brick really, really well?
Yes.
That will finally become a foundation, no matter how long it takes.
Yes. Because I mean, like you said, 3 years ago or so, it wasn't there, but now it is.
Yeah.
But that's because you've consistently practiced it.
Yes.
And you've gotten there. Same thing happened for me. I decided, to your point about designing this life of peace and joy, because I was in a previous relationship that there was never peace and joy. Like it was like the opposite. Mm-hmm. It was like
you found out what you don't want.
Exactly. I was in a relationship that like you woke up and I'd oftentimes sleep with like one eye open, type thing. And it was one of those things it was just brutal. And I'm like, man, this sucks. Like, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I in this relationship? And it goes to the point you'd mentioned, the big houses and all that other stuff. To the folks out there that think that people who have all these materialistic things and they're doing extremely well, don't believe those things that you tell yourself.
Yeah, you're just getting the highlight reel.
Yeah, you're getting.
There are more responsibility. There's surprises. There's weight to it. There really is.
There's a lot of
there's
weight
a responsibility. All of it. It's not just rainbows, unicorns, and ice cream.
And especially if you don't have a partner to climb that ladder with, like you're dragging your partner up the hill. then that may not be the right partner for you, or you got to take a different path, or you got to climb a different ladder, which is a whole different conversation. But yeah, I figured out really after doing that for a while, and it was a short while, only like 5 years, thank goodness. But there was enough misery, and in that period of time, that it literally like stole my joy.
Some people, you just said 5 years. Thank the Lord, it was such a short period of time. There's a lot of people sitting here watching or thinking that my business is only 2 years old.
Yeah.
So just think about that. Put that into perspective. Like if you're straining, stressed, frustrated, not where I should be yet, and your business is 18 months old, 4 months old, 5 months old even, or I'm sorry, 4 or 5 years old even, it's so new.
Yeah.
It's so like you are literally in testing phase still to figure out what you truly love and enjoy and figure out what actually helps you design the life that you want and strive for every day, because you were able to discover that by trying many different things, narrowing it down, shutting a lot of doors that didn't end up making sense. Got into the promissory real estate note game. Right. And when it comes to the real estate note game, notice there isn't tenants and management and the houses themselves. You're talking about the debt. You're on the debt side. So being on the debt side, that's actually feeding your life. So every time you do a deal now it brings you peace. Right. So there might be some people watching this right now that their business is 2 years old going, well, I have 12 houses, but I'm not happy. And maybe I need more. Or maybe you need to do it differently. Maybe you need to let this be a sign to reflect, as you discussed earlier, as you talked about earlier, reflect, take ownership that you've learned this, and now you can make that 1% shift that'll really improve your life.
Absolutely. If somebody's out there listening to this, the number one thing you should strive for is passive income.
Yeah, I totally
figure
agree.
out how to get there. Like we and you and I have talked about this in the past, that the thing that brought us the most amount of freedom, the most amount of peace, and the greatest returns on our investment was passive income.
Yeah.
It wasn't the heavy lifting. It wasn't the fix and flip ideas and all that stuff. And I'm not against rehabbers and all that stuff. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you want a life that really caters to who you are as a human being, then first off, you have to establish a financial cash flow system, which has to be passive. Then you can start getting into like what really matters to me. Like when I started building the women's shelter, there was nowhere on my radar screen of a women's shelter, especially in another country.
Especially not here. Yeah. Right.
It was one of those things where it happened, and I didn't really realize why it was happening, but it felt like it needed to happen. And then I've realized the value of it ever since. Like the value continues to produce more and more blessings.
That's how you can get to 15, 20,000, 20,000 now, over 20,000 transactions.
Yeah.
If it's not feeding your life, you can't get there.
Yeah. And I won't do it. Like
you don't want to do it.
I don't want to do it. In 2019, I had a fund come to me wanting to do another fund. And we had meetings. We had,
Wait, this isn't the fish taco story, is it?
No. We're
going to tell the fish taco on another episode.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll tell the fish taco story on another episode.
Absolutely, we'll do that. But this one here was just guys. They were coming. They ran a big company out of San Antonio, Texas. They were looking to put $100 million into play, and we talked for about a month back and forth. And at the end of the month, I'm like, I don't want to do this. And the biggest reason I didn't want to do it was because it was going to steal my peace. It was going to steal my joy. And they were great guys. Great idea, great model.
And that's $100 million.
$100 million. And I said, no, I'm not doing this. And they asked why. And I told them, I said, I would have to invest so much of my time in this model that I would lose my relationship with my wife. I would lose my relationship with my kids, which will just lead to all kinds of other.
Which who cares about the money?
Yeah, the domino.
Now you get to give half of it away.
Yeah, half of it away. Kids in counseling, all this other kind of stuff.
So long term, yeah.
So you're going to pay me today. That's great, but I'm going to spend this money over the next 20 years.
How do you develop that that law of second and third consequences. So pain before comfort, always.
Right. Yeah.
So if you have comfort, it's always followed by, this is a good principle for you guys. If you have comfort first, example would be eating a Twinkie. Ooh.
Yeah.
You ever had a bad Twinkie? Nah, nobody has.
Nobody
right?
ever has. Yeah.
Now, what follows that? First consequence is joy.
Yeah, joy. Yeah, you get joy first. Yeah.
Joy is first. That's the first comfort consequence. Second, third, fourth tier consequences are you weigh more, you're less healthy, you don't look as good. All those are negative. Pain follows comfort.
Yeah.
If you have pain first, a quick example would just be working out.
Sure.
So, what's the first consequence of lifting? Pain. Physical pain does not feel good. You don't want to do it.
Yeah.
What's second, third, and fourth tier consequences of that? You're healthier, you're stronger, you look better.
Yeah.
So all of that is comfort. So pain before comfort, always.
And you can actually eat the Twinkie after you work out because your metabolism is higher and it'll burn right through it. Just
pain first.
Yeah.
Remember, pain first.
Pain first. Yeah.
So how do you develop that road? I don't want to call it roadmap. How do you develop that site for second, third, and fourth tier consequences? Is it just understanding principles such as what we just discussed, or no? Like most people aren't going to be able to turn away $100 million deal.
Right. And for me, it was I had crashed and burned.
So you'd experienced.
I'd experienced it already. So to me, it was like a bad movie reel happening again.
That was your opportunity to go back to the way you were.
Yeah.
That was the shot. That was the.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't want to do that. I'm like, because I like.
Yeah, you'd already dealt with 9 and 10. You'd already dealt with.
Yeah.
Got billions of dollars. It starts with a B.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It just wasn't like I was not willing to risk what I had built. I wasn't willing to risk my relationship with my wife, with my kids, my freedom. I wasn't willing to give up anything. I'm like, nope, I'll do it if I don't have to give up anything, meaning those things. But to me, those are like no man's land. Like you don't touch those. If it's you and me doing a job or something like that, or a project, then I'm cool with that. But it was encroaching into something that was
sneaking out of the other side.
Yeah, I'm like, no, you crossed the line, and they didn't know they were crossing the line. Like they weren't doing anything, with ill will or intent or any of that. Like I didn't look at it from that perspective. I had to keep the boundary, and I guess where that comes from. One, I've experienced it, but then I've seen so many other massively successful people have really miserable lives.
I know some people, man, that are worth $10 million, 8 figures and up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't trade a day.
No.
A day. I know people that own thousands and thousands and thousands of units, apartments, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
That there's some of the most unhappy people that I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they can buy whatever they want. They can do whatever they want, but oh man.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade a single day. So always going back to that principle of like, does this bring peace?
Yeah. Does it bring peace? And that was a big eye opener for me in 18. In 18, I was in New York. I'd just spoken at NASDAQ. And I was.
You guys can resonate with that, right? I was just spoken as I just rang the opening stock bell.
Well,
just sweet, by the way.
It kind of happened that way.
I know which sweet, by the way. Yeah.
Well, I just spoken to NASDAQ. My book was on the Jumbotron in Times Square and all that. My book cover was, and so I reached out to a friend of mine who is the vice president of the New York Stock Exchange, and I'm like, what are you doing tomorrow? And he's like, I'm working, what's up? I said, well, I'm in town, blah, blah, blah. He's like, great, come by the office. Well, his office is the New York Stock Exchange. Yeah. That's his office. And so
it's a hell of an office.
Yeah, it's a hell of an office. So he goes, I'll call security and put your name on the list and come on through. And like they run like a 24-hour background check. Like they're like, send me, he goes, I've got your social somewhere, but send me it again. We'll background check you real quick.
Yeah.
Because you have to do that to get in. So I show up and we do our tour thing and all that fun stuff. And we go up to the 4th floor and we're having breakfast. Like this is at like 7 a.m. Like they haven't rang the bell or any of that stuff. We're having breakfast. Yeah. And our conversation, now this is a man that makes several millions of dollars a year in a corporate job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really impressive on the corporate job site. Because remember, I couldn't get hired to tear the ticket and hand it back to the person at the gate.
Yeah.
So I just get the spectrum of that. I don't get it.
Big spectrum. Well, and he used to be the president of the American Stock Exchange, but when the Twin Towers 9/11 happened, it crushed the American Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
So it was taken over by the New York Stock Exchange. So he actually didn't crush it, but he shut down the American Stock Exchange. Long story short, he rang the last bell of the American Stock Exchange as well. But so we're sitting in the private cafe where Warren Buffett and they all meet and have breakfast and all that kind of stuff when they get together. But as we were sitting there, the thing he talked about, and the number one thing he talked about was, how do I get my 19-year-old kid motivated? And there was this huge light bulb moment for me.
No, this guy makes $20 million a year.
Yeah.
And he's worried about how to get his 19-year-old out of bed.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was buying up houses like from Hurricane Sandy and he had like crews out there doing it because he liked doing that stuff. He was paying his kid like $60 an hour cash and he couldn't get him off the couch. And I'm like, because there was no leadership there. He was really good at his job. Yeah. But I personally think he failed as a parent. And so
it's far more painful.
Which is far more painful because I guarantee you he would have given up all of this money to have a kid who was motivated and was out there going for it. Now his daughter, on the other hand, she's a rock star, crushing it, but his son was not. And that was that light bulb moment where money won't bring morals. Money won't,
Right. It's not going to, it's going to make you more of who you are.
Yeah. Exactly.
So if you're a great person, you're going to give more, you're going to create more, you're going to drive more purpose. Everybody around you is going to get better.
Yeah.
And if you're a dirtbag,
yeah,
or unfocused, or
sure,
unprioritized, or improperly prioritized,
right?
It will show that, it'll expose that too.
Yeah,
it'll expose insecurities, and so Troy and I are going to do another episode together for sure. I'm excited. We're going to tell more. We're going to tell more stories. I have two things to say. Yeah. One, if you want to learn from Troy, book a call with us. There's a link down below in the description or the show notes. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, it's in the description. If you're listening on any of the podcasts, softwares is in the show notes. You can book a call with us, and we can get that set up. Which is incredible. It's just still mind blowing to me. And the second thing is, I want you to ask yourself this question: are you at the level of the person that you need to be? Are you the type of person? Are you ready to turn down $100 million for your family or the loved ones around you? Yeah. That way you guys get better. Yeah. Are you willing to turn down $100 million to make the right decision? I want you to ask yourself that. Yeah. If you liked what you just heard, great. We would love to chat with you more and to see if you're a great fit for our community. You can do that by emailing us at admin@thekingdomrealestate.com, or you can check the description below to book a call with us. Have a day.